and a review of the parenting time. It was previously scheduled, but it had to be adjourned. Parenting time has been suspended in this case, and so the court's looking at that and whether or not that's appropriate to continue that as well. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Madrid.
Francesca Madrid, foster care worker from Fostering Solutions.
Michael Brooks, I represent the father. Dustin King.
Have you heard from your client, Mr. Brooks?
No.
And he's not here today that you've seen?
No.
And he's not
Honestly, I have not heard from him. Maybe a misrepresentation. He calls every week.
Okay. All right. Well, we don't have him by Zoom or in person today, just for the record.
Michael McFarland, representing mother. Please introduce yourself.
Kirsten Miller, the mother.
Thank you. All right. Any preference, counselors, on what we take first, whether it's well, actually, maybe we should do the review first. And so I can understand what's been happening with Ms. Miller, because obviously that will impact what I decide as well on parenting time.
That's going to be my preference. So.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was able to meet with each of the children in person. This time I did go to the two older children's schools, and I was able to see the youngest child at both of the days that I went to the school because the foster placement was also there. I'll start with the youngest child, the daughter. She's doing very well. Her speech is starting to come along. She just has turned 2, so she's still pretty young, but she's done very well since being placed with fictive kin, or with her placement. She's always happy, always smiling. Her needs are being met. She is very comfortable with her placement and her brothers when I've seen her interact with them. The middle child I saw at his school, his speech is still difficult for me to understand. However, it seems to be getting better, and he is in school getting the help that he needs and the structure that he needs. He is thriving at the placement as well. He's very comfortable with the caregivers that he has there, and the structure that is provided to him both at home and at school are very much helping him adjust, despite the fact that there are still some issues here and there, but overall he seems to be doing very well. The oldest child I also met with at his school. He attends a different building than his brother, but I was able to sit in the classroom with him for a while, read him a book, and just see how he interacts, as well as talk to the teacher for quite some time. He still does have outbursts, however, they're less frequent now that parenting time has been suspended. He would hate going into school before. He would, after visits, cuss at teachers, call them names, be very violent, and there would need to be a lot more classroom evacuations after parenting times. However, those have, they still happen, but they're not as frequent, and they're easier to redirect him at this point. He's very loving. We were reading a book, and he was actually, we were in there and he counted, we were reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar, and he counted, I think it was 5, whatever it was, 5 of strawberries maybe or something, and the teacher said that's the first time he made it all the way to 5. So that was it was nice to see that he's doing well in there. But he accidentally bumped a friend, and he made sure that friend was okay and ensured that the friend was not hurt by his accidental contact. So it's nice to see that he's got care and compassion. But again, he is making progress, and more so since since parenting time has been suspended. I do believe that all of their needs are being met in their current placement. They are in the least restrictive environment, and I believe it would be in the children's best interest to I'd like to have a little bit more information about the trauma assessments and bonding before really diving back into full-time parenting time. But if there is parenting time, it needs to be very structured, and if there are any major issues after that parenting time, you need to have a plan with how to address it immediately. Thank you.
Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. By way of opening, I suppose I want to acknowledge to the court and apologize to the court and fellow counsel that I did not ask Miss Abbott or anyone from the trauma assessment to be present for today's hearing. Part of that was I wanted to respect their time, and it was my understanding we were uncertain whether this case would proceed in front of this jurist. So I just want to apologize for that ahead of time. I am grateful that Ms. Madrid included the trauma assessments, and as it relates to Ms. Miller, I think that there's sufficient information to move forward, but I would defer to the court if we would like to, I guess if you would like presentation on that today.
Well, I do want to clear that up a little bit too, because, well, obviously, you were all here last time, with the exception of Mr. King, who's on here today, to hear Mr. King indicate that he had done some work for my dad and for me in the past, and that took me completely by surprise, frankly. So I did take some time to talk with my dad about that, and neither he nor I had any independent recollection whatsoever of Dustin King being part of anything. Now, if something comes up in the future where there's more information available, or Mr. King does something or says something that indicates that a further conflict might arise, I'd be happy to revisit that. But at this time, I don't see any reason to recuse from them. Any objections or further comments or argument on that point from any of our attorneys today? Please let me know if there's something that comes up on that.
No, Your Honor, I think it's a ridiculous motion.
You're satisfied with Your Honor remaining on the case?
As are we, Your Honor.
Is everyone?
I have no objections or issues, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, and thank you for your patience in allowing me to do that. And it certainly does explain, Ms. Thomas, your hesitation to bring witnesses today. Also, I have a feeling Mr. King would prefer that we have this hearing on parenting time, especially as it relates to him, with him present. So I'd be inclined to allow him to do that. So for today, of course, well, I'll be happy to look at the parenting time as it relates to Ms. Kirsten Miller and those exhibits. And we have a separate date set up, I think, for Mr. King's hearing on the 15th. So Mr. Brooks, if you'd like, I'll just adjourn the hearing as it relates to his parenting time to be consolidated with his review on April 15th.
And the date and time on that?
It was it's his first regular review. It's set for April 15th at 2:30.
I'll stay. I should point out that I have gotten copies of the trauma assessments and read them. I can't imagine what the in-person witnesses are going to be or be any more helpful to my client. By the way, for the benefit of Kim Kudrin, this is the strongest my voice has been in a week. What you see is what you get.
Thank you, and thank you for coming, Mr. Brooks. All right. Well, Ms. Thomas, back to you then for witness presentation today.
Thank you. And I'll call Ms. Madrid to provide her report.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do have a number of packets that were presented to me, so I'm sure that during her testimony, we're going to clear up which ones I should keep and which ones. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Ms.
Sharon, if you could-
Madrid, for once, your voice might be louder than mine.
Okay. You're good.
Judge, if we can start with that issue, I have in my task list that we were to assist in providing an ICWA chart. I don't know that that's been completed on our end. We're still, as an agency or the department, working with the private agencies, developing a tool and a pathway to keep track of everything. So I'm not sure exactly what the court has in the file, other than obviously the outstanding ICWA documentation.
So I can share with you what I do have is 2 packets that were submitted February 7th. The first appears to have 2 exhibits. The second has 3 exhibits. They're both pretty significant stacks of paper. The second being larger with the 3rd exhibit And then another one was received March 4th that has 7 exhibits. So that's what I have.
Sorry, Anna, my computer's being very picky today. Ms. Madrid, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to confirm whether or not the other attorneys had received the same thing or had any additional or not as many documents.
I got something with charts on it that are. I got charts.
There are some charts in the trauma assessments as well, Mr. Brooks, so I don't know if that's.
Well, the one I'm thinking of looks like a printout on how to do a microchip. In terms of following procedures the federal government is demanding. Which may be the other case.
We'll leave you to investigate that between now and when you come back on the 15th.
All right.
Mr. McFarland, do you have the packets that I have?
I do have some documentation. I'm not sure all that you have, but I do have some big block information, it looks like.
The exhibits, just to clarify, the 2 packets that were produced on the 7th, exhibit 1 is a parenting time recommendation, exhibit 2, Lincoln CTAC assessment. Second packet indicates exhibit 1 is parenting time recommendations, exhibit 2 is revised, and I will use the initials DK Junior CTAC assessment. And then exhibit 3 is of the L CTAC assessment. The packet received March 4th indicates TCW court report, case service plan, CTAC assessments for 2 children, psychological evaluation for Ms. Miller, completed CPS, MIC investigation report, and dental reports for the children. That's where I am for exhibits.
Your Honor, I believe that I'm trying to find what I have because I know that we submitted documentation for the hearing that was supposed to be held on February 10th regarding parenting time. I'm just struggling to find the most updated court report on that. If I may inquire from Ms. Madrid.
Go ahead.
Ms. Madrid, I know that there's been a lot that has been back and forth here. So in my records, I have there is a court report that was submitted. It looks like maybe even February 7th. And that has 2 exhibits, one for parenting time recommendations, and then the second one was L's CTAC assessment. But if I'm remembering correctly, after that, there was a second packet submitted, which had updates to L's CTAC, correct? And then other parenting time recommendations?
They should have been sent the same day.
Okay.
And then I sent the most recent court report on March 4th. Or whatever date.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I have.
Yes, that's
Okay.
It was a day late, but I was waiting on all of the documentation.
Okay. Okay. And from the reports dating back to February 7th, the 2 that you submitted, do those contain different information? Or is one just inclusive of the other and more? Does that make sense?
Yes, the second one is does have additional information after we spoke to the CTEC Center regarding parenting time.
Okay. And would you be asking the court to review those documents as relates to Ms. Miller today?
Yes,
Okay. And then in addition to that, you've also provided the court report for today's hearing, correct?
yes,
Okay. And in today's court report, there's the case service plan for Ms. Miller, the CTACs for L and N, And then a psychological evaluation for Miss Miller. It looks like it's redacted. Can you just briefly indicate the reason or what is redacted from that?
So we received one report for both parents. So with Ms. Thomas's assistance, we were able to separate them. And so only Ms. Miller's information is in her psychological that was submitted. Any information redacted is regarding Mr. King.
And then you have the completed MIC investigation. I believe that was started back in January, and then dental reports for the children, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so in addition to, I guess, comprehensively, the 2 reports from February and then this report in March, to the best of your knowledge, are there any updates or modifications that need to be made?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. And again, we're only going to speak about Ms. Miller. So during this review period, would you, well, let me ask this. Do you believe that there is a substantial risk of harm if the court were to return the children to her care and custody today?
Yes.
And can you just briefly elaborate what that risk of harm is?
They would be at a continued risk for homelessness, exposure to domestic violence and improper supervision, as well as unmet mental health needs.
And during this review period, what services have been offered to Ms. Miller to address those risks of harm to the children?
Yes, so Ms. Miller participated in a psychological evaluation. She also began counseling at Counseling of Lenawee. She's had one appointment, I believe, so far. We also made a family assistance program referral with Orchard Children's Services that just recently began, so they haven't made too much progress other than rapport building. She was provided with several online parenting education classes through the MSU extension, and she did complete several of those. Only one of those is in the report, and I did receive several more this morning from her certificates indicating she did complete some additional classes. I believe that is it. She did report that she is working on finding employment and securing her own housing. I don't have any other updates on that, so she might be able to give a better update on that. But she is engaged in services and maintains consistent communication.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat, who did she recently start therapy with?
Counseling of Lenawee.
Okay. So it sounds like she's doing a lot of work towards her case service plan. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And are there any areas in which she is non-compliant or is maybe needing to progress a little more before, I guess areas of non-compliance or areas that need to be continuously addressed?
Yes, so we just recently got the psychological back, so she will need to start tackling those recommendations. She just recently started counseling, so, and I did provide that evaluation to her counselor. So they're going to begin working on those recommendations. Housing and employment definitely is a concern and continues to be kind of up in the air, but as in the next reporting period, we'll be able to tackle that more with different referrals. And then as far as her children's trauma assessments, those also just recently came back and we have several recommendations. We have not had a family team meeting to sit down and go over all of those recommendations yet though.
In your report, it indicates that Ms. Miller motioned the court to drop the personal protection order that was put in place between the parents back. It was effective in late November, and then she asked for it to be dismissed mid-January. Do you have any information about that, or were you able to talk to her about that decision?
So I did speak to her, and she indicated to me that I was under the impression that she did want to continue in a relationship with Mr. King, but then I was informed recently by the Orchard Children's Services worker that she stated she did not. And I just haven't had a family team meeting with her to get an update on that, so she may be able to give a more specific stance on where she's at with that today.
And is it your impression that the issue of domestic violence and educating around it and identifying risks and learning how to prevent it is going to be addressed with her therapist?
At this time, yes, and I did provide the evaluation, but she will be letting me know if she is not able to fully address that recommendation, and then we will be looking to her to engage with Catherine Cobb.
And you put quite a bit in your report about the MIC investigation. Thank you for that. And then also thank you for including that report. Can you just highlight, I guess, what the complaint was and then what the outcome of the investigation was?
Yes. So the summarized version of the complaint was that during a parenting time, Lincoln reported that Ms. Miller pinched him during a supervised visit, leaving some marks on the back of his arm. The complaint was made to centralized intake, and it was assigned to MIC. An investigation opened, safety plans were created, but it was not substantiated.
And since I know there's been a lot of talk of parenting time, and so I really want to give you an opportunity to address that. I believe Ms. Miller's initial disposition hearing was December 20th. Since then, what has parenting time looked like for her?
So since I took over the case, parenting time has been predominantly suspended, but from what I have been able to read and been informed by my supervisors, parenting time is very chaotic, and it's the observation that Ms. Miller is unable to meet all of her children's needs at the same time, specifically the oldest child who does have significant behavioral concerns during and after the parenting time visits. And I think that same observation was made in the trauma assessments, where she was observed to need assistance and need lots of intervention in order to manage her 3 children. Yeah, I would say that.
And at this time, do you believe that the continuation of continuing suspending parenting time or the suspension parenting time is appropriate, or based on the trauma assessments, and the services that are in place, are you asking the court to reconsider allowing supervised parenting time?
We would ask for discretion to reinstate parenting time once we have a family team meeting to discuss the recommendations on the trauma assessments and her psychological. So I do believe and the CTEC recommendation, which stated that the visit should be for a short period of time, just to make sure all of the children's needs are being met, specifically their emotional needs. So if we do have that discussion, we would have a family team meeting to discuss those recommendations and make sure we have a lot of safeguards in place during the visit. Yes.
Okay. And at this time, I know that you haven't had this meeting, so this may be a premature question. But at this time, do you believe that parenting time with Ms. Miller and the children should be on an individual basis with each of the children for shortened periods of time?
I would say they should be separated between the 2 youngest and the oldest.
Okay.
Just because the oldest child has significant behavioral issues, kicking out of the room, throwing things, making it very hard for her to even attempt to manage the other children.
Okay. Ms. Underwood had provided her report and indicated that the oldest child who has these significant behavioral concerns has been making progress in his classroom, and I believe, if I remember correctly, also in the placement home since parenting time has been suspended. Do you have anything to add to that?
I would just echo that. He seems to be doing really well. He has a ton of services at Trenton Hills, OT, PT, social work. All of his needs are being met, and he has, even visiting him, it seems like he's just calmer and really seems to thrive off of structure and like specific routine. I think he's doing really well.
And is he currently receiving any therapeutic services?
So he has social work at Trenton Hills, but he does not have an infant mental health worker. That is something that will get started in the next reporting period now that it was in the trauma assessment.
Is there anything from your report that we haven't touched on that you would like the court to be aware of?
Not at this time.
Okay. And then for, just to make sure we're not missing anything from the earlier reports back in February, that trauma assessment with the addition of the update, I guess, from part 2 of that report, that is for the oldest child, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And has he undergone any other additional assessments since this report has been drafted?
You're speaking of LK, right? Not
The
DK.
oldest, yes. I'm sorry, yes, the oldest of Miss Miller's 3 children.
Yes. No, he has not had any other assessments or evaluations. He is engaged with
Okay.
Trenton Hills and has LASD, special early on services.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, Your Honor, with that, I have no further questions for Ms. Madrid and would move to admit the February report as it relates to Ms. Miller's child, and then the report for today's hearing.
Objections?
Objections.
No position.
Your Honor, if the report from March 4th is the one that's supposed to contain the ICWA information, I do not have the ICWA information. Other than that, I have no objection. I've double checked. I was reading another case earlier, but not this one. Mine ends with a trauma assessment.
Yes, there's no, I don't have any ICWA information on it, nor any exhibit indicated that there should be any.
Okay, I misunderstood that. No objection.
Ms. Underwood, I'm sorry, I missed it. Do you have any objections?
No objection.
Very well. I'm going to receive the packets from the 7th as well as March 4th and leave those open to Mr. Brooks as well in case there's any information there that he needs to engage with as it relates to his client's review on April 15th.
Thank you.
Questions for this witness, Mr. McFarland?
I do. My client indicates she's agreeable to bifurcating, having the children visit with her separately. This would all be discussed at the family meeting, correct?
Absolutely.
The time frame for scheduling.
I would say it will be completed within the next 2 weeks,
Okay.
depending on her schedule, obviously.
Priority wise, is she doing what she should priority wise under the case service plan at this point?
Yes, and she has all the necessary information, like the psychological evaluation recommendations and the trauma assessment recommendations. Those are the top priority, just to make sure that we are focusing on keeping parenting time safe.
Well, there's a lot of recommendations. Is there any place where she should be placing the emphasis? Maybe that might clarify.
Mental health and parenting.
Okay. And you have release assigned so you can get information up to date on her mental health?
I do have a release signed with counseling of Lenaway, sorry.
And I know she wants to discuss attending some school functions, reading functions that can also be addressed at this family team meeting, correct?
Yes, it depends on parenting time and whether or not it's reinstated.
I didn't hear you, kind of cut off. So
Sorry,
I have a fan above me, so.
it depends on parenting time and if it's reinstated. Sorry, I had to cough.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Brooks, any questions at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Underwood, whenever you're ready.
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out where I should start here. With respect to the oldest child, do you believe that reinstating parenting time would make him regress in the areas he's progressed on?
I do think that we will see the same behaviors that we saw when parenting time was already happening, especially in the beginning.
With respect to the younger two children, is it more reasonable for parenting time to start with Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Aside from the behavioral issues, are there any safety concerns during the visits that need to be addressed?
I mean, there is a lot of physicality needing to kind of restrain him a lot of the time by Ms. Miller and anyone really in the visit, but she more than likely always needs assistance with that, whether it's discipline or restraining or just keeping him safe, not hurting his head or running out of the room, things like that.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Any other questions, Mr. McFarland?
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. Any other witnesses, Ms. Thomas?
I'll be calling my client if she wants to know about it.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland. Ms. McKinney, would you like to make a statement about how the children are doing?
Sorry, my voice there for a second. The kids have been doing
Well,
a
wait,
lot
hang on,
better.
hang on. If you, Ms. McKinney, if you would, you don't have to testify. If you would like to, though, we'll just have you sworn in, okay?
Okay.
Would you like to make a statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I would ask that Ms. McKinney be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Ms. McKinney, can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sherry McKinney, SherryMcKinney.
Thank you so much. And Ms. McKinney, how are you familiar with the children?
My boyfriend is their biological great uncle,
And are the children
and
currently
I
in your
am
care?
fostering them. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's really breaking up on our end. I'm not getting any of that.
Sorry, Your
Can you
Honor.
repeat?
Ms. 1 minute, Ms. McKinney. Ms. McKinney, are you the current foster care placement of Ms. Miller's children?
Yes, I am.
And how long have they been in your care?
Since November 20th of 2024.
And since they've been in your care, I believe that you've provided us with updates and that we've gotten those through the court reports. But is there anything that you would like the court to know about how they've been doing since they've been in your care?
They've come a long way. It's been a very emotional and challenging time with Lincoln. Leo and Nevada are just happy-go-lucky 24/7. Lincoln's come through a lot of obstacles and overcome a lot of trying times for him, but he's doing really, really good now. But I am concerned on the issue if they start parenting time with Leo and Nevada, Lincoln's going to get very, like, if I do something with the kids, it's got to be like all three. And I'm afraid how that's going to affect Lincoln. with
Um,
the other two. So I'm kind of concerned about that.
Okay, Ms. McKinney, it's maybe a little too late for this, but we are on YouTube, so I just would ask if you could refer to the children as the oldest, middle, and youngest,
Okay.
and then we'll try to
Okay.
keep, it's okay, we'll try to keep track of them that way. So for the oldest child, there's been a lot of testimony from the workers, and even the LJL, which was presented to the court, that he's struggled after parenting time with a lot of
Yeah.
behaviors. Have you witnessed that?
Oh, yes. A lot. Yes.
And since parenting time has been suspended, have you seen a decrease in those behaviors?
Yes. Very dramatic decrease. He does still have some outbursts, from time to time, but he is he loves being on a routine, and he's doing a lot better. Just a lot calmer.
And if I'm understanding your statement earlier, it's that you're concerned if the oldest child is not participating in parenting time with the youngest two, how that might also affect him. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he had the problem with disassociation with his little brother, especially. They're used to doing everything together. And if the middle child was to go with the younger one, I don't know how the oldest would adapt to that, because change is hard for him. He doesn't adapt to change as good. So that's going to be an emotional roller coaster.
Okay. And I feel like maybe the two younger ones are not discussed as much, but were there the same type of behavioral concerns after parenting time for them as the older child?
The middle one, somewhat, not a lot. The youngest, she's always happy-go-lucky. She wasn't, very upset or anything like that, but the other two, definitely. But the middle one, not near as much as the oldest one. He struggled a lot.
Okay. Do you feel that the children have sufficient or adequate safeguards and supports in place so that if parenting time is reinstated, maybe their behaviors aren't going to be as escalated as you've noticed in the past?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I really don't know.
Do you believe that they're ready for parenting time to be reinstated? For mom.
Personally, I've just got them on a very cool, calm routine that they're used to everything at a certain time. After school routines, dinner time and bath time, bedtime, everything at a certain routine. And I don't know, it would be disruptive to the routines and then like back to square one again. But other than that, I guess it's a catch 50-50.
Okay. Thank you so much for your testimony. I don't have any more questions for you, but other attorneys may, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Questions, Mr. McFarland?
Yes, are you a placement?
You might want to go to the.
Thank you, I will. I
Watch your
just
head.
thought about that.
Everything's fine.
Now you can see me. Ma'am, are you a placement? If this case goes south, you'd be in a position to adapt?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Do you have an opinion if mom visits the children? Well, I guess you already expressed that opinion, so I have no further questions.
Mr. Brooks?
No,
Ms. Underwood?
How are you, Sherry? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi.
What kind of progress would you say that the oldest child has made since being in your care?
Oh, he's learning so many things. Not to be in fear of teachers, not to be in fear of police. Not he had so many fears and so much rage. He knew a lot of violence and was acting on that, very, very dramatic. But he's a lot calmer now, and we can sit down and talk about things, and he can think about seriously, like, okay, if I do this, what's going to happen for the aftermath, you know? And he's starting to really stop and think about his steps of his behavior and try to calm himself down. And he's learning that, you know, even at school, if he gets upset, he can put his hand up for 5 and ask for 5 minutes just to take a break and recollect himself. So he's learning how to not act out in so much rage and violence, because he was very, very aggressive in the beginning and very dramatic. But now he loves a routine. He loves knowing what to expect, and it gives him a sense of safety and security. Uh, I'm doing so much better.
I know there was an issue with him using very vulgar and adult profanities at teachers and at
yeah.
you. Has
Yes.
that behavior decreased?
Yeah, he's only had 2 outbursts with me. The very beginning when we first got him, oh God, it was horrible. He was calling me every name in the book, basically. But I guess it was probably about a month ago, somewhere around there. He called me another bad name one time when he got mad, but he hasn't done it since, and he's learning how to not use that language. So he's
Now,
calmed down with that too.
thank you for that. So the middle child, he's now in school, correct?
Yes.
And how has he progressed since starting school?
Oh God, so much more. He's so much excitement and um, telling me everything that he gets to do, and he's making friends. He's very vibrant. You know, his whole attitude on everything in general is stronger, and he just wants to make everybody proud all the time, and he does.
Now, I know he just turned 4, and when he came into your care, I don't think he was fully potty trained. Is that correct?
No,
Is he still working on that, or what is the progress with
he
regards to potty training?
he's still working on it, but he's getting probably 75% there.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And as you stated before, the youngest, the daughter, every time I've seen her, she's smiling and happy. Is that her general demeanor?
Oh yes, yes, all the time. She's always just a happy little girl. She's a blessing.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. McKinney, from what I read in the court report, the youngest child was scheduled for an evaluation with early on March 6th, so just a few days ago. Can you tell me if there was anything that they identified that she could use support in, or any concerns?
Her speech and stuff isn't affected near as much as the middle and the oldest child. She's starting to say a lot more words, and that's starting to progress really easily for her. But she doesn't know like any of her colors or shapes or anything like that. So she's going to be going to Trenton Hill probably once a month and just doing some interaction up there to try to kind of get her up to par. But I've been working with her a lot at home.
Okay, any other questions for this witness, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
No, thank you.
Ms. Brooks?
Thank you, no.
Ms. All right, thank you for your testimony, Ms. McKinney.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
My client would like to testify.
Okay, Ms. Miller, come on up to our witness stand.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
If you could state and spell your full name for the record, please.
Kirsten Miller, K-I-E-R-S-T-Y-N-M-I-L-L-E-R.
Thank you.
Why don't you enlighten us as far as the status of the PPO? You told me it no longer exists, is that correct?
Yes.
And you've told me somebody instructed you to terminate that, is that accurate?
Yes.
Can you tell us who told you and under what circumstances?
Ashley Beach did. She wanted to, because the father of the children wanted to do group counseling to try to get back together, but I don't want to be with them. I just want to get my kids home in a safe environment without their dad because of all the domestics.
Could you speak a little louder, please? You tail off.
Ashley Beach told me to get it done because Dustin wanted family counseling to try to get back together, and I don't want to get back together with them because of all the domestic.
When was this PPO terminated?
I believe it was in January.
Have you had any issues with him since then?
No.
If you do, is it your intention on refiling a PPO?
Yes.
Is it true that you wish to have no contact at all with him whatsoever?
Correct.
Okay. And you've also indicated to me that you're agreeable to having this family team meeting to discuss what your parenting schedule is going to look like, correct?
Yes.
You want to bring up some issues regarding attendance at parenting time issue or events like reading and doctor's appointments. That's, you understand you'll have an opportunity to
Yes.
discuss that at the family team meeting, right?
Yes.
And you also heard where they would like to have some of your focus on your mental health
Yes.
and following your case service plan, right?
Yes.
Any concerns that you have on your
No.
case? Any highlights that you want the court to know, accomplishments?
I have gotten to counseling. I am on medicine for my mental health. I'm still looking for a job. I'm on 2 waiting lists for a house. I go back next week to meet with Housing Help Illinois to help me get further on to to get into a place so I can get a safe environment for my children.
You have a community mental health caseworker assigned to you?
No, I don't go to CMH. I go to Adrian Counseling and Psychiatry
Got you. And how regular are your appointments there?
once a month.
And have you signed a release with Ms. Madrid?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay. Anything else you wish to address with the court today?
No.
We'll see if any other attorneys have questions.
Questions, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you. Ms. Miller, you stated that Ms. Beach instructed you to terminate a PPO. Can you please provide me with, or can you please state exactly the conversation that you had with her?
She said if we wanted to have counseling that we had to drop the PPO in order for us to even try to make an appointment for family counseling.
So she did not
the
tell
fa-
you to
but
drop
the
the
father-
PPO.
But the father motioned for the PPO to get dropped.
So you did not motion for it to be dropped.
No, the father did.
And did you contest that?
Yeah.
As the jurist who presided over that particular hearing, I would make a recommendation that you review the transcript from that rather than the independent recollection of this particular witness for further unmoneyed inquiry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, because I'm very concerned about the testimony and would call Ms. Beach for a rebuttal witness on this point because I'm very concerned about what was stated. But I believe that's all I needed to ask. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, questions, Mr. Brooks?
No, Your Honor, I just muddy the water further.
Ms. Underwood?
Have you had an opportunity to review the trauma assessments of your children?
Yes, I have copies of them in like on the paper.
Do you believe, and how do you believe that parenting time has gone when you've had it with your kids?
The oldest, he likes more one-on-one, I think, but he does have behavior issues. I'll agree with that. Usually they go good, but this last visit before my visits were suspended, he did say the vulgar language and I did put him in timeout. And I never pinched him, so I don't understand that. They usually do go good. until we have to put them in their car seats.
So where would the oldest child have learned that language?
His oldest brother.
A lot of the assessments indicate that there are issues with your ability to parent. Do you think that you could improve on your parenting?
Yeah, in some areas.
Your oldest son's CTAC indicates that it might be appropriate for him to receive some type of counseling before reincorporating parenting time. Do you think that would be beneficial for him?
I mean, I want parenting time, but everybody needs a counselor. I don't think it should be stated before I get to see him again.
If your oldest continues to regress to his prior behaviors after visits, do you think it'd be appropriate to suspend those visits?
Well, he's gonna regress because he's not in my home yet.
So the question is, if seeing you is making him regress, do you still believe that parenting time with you should continue?
Yes, because he's gonna regress until he gets into my house. He's used to being with mom and dad and not his aunt and uncle.
Okay, but you've heard the testimony that he's doing very well with his aunt and uncle, correct?
Right, and he was doing good with me in school too. He's doing the same amount what he was doing with me in school than he is with his aunt and uncle.
But his behaviors have improved since being with aunt and uncle, is that correct?
He never had outbursts when I had him when he was in school.
I have no further questions.
Redirect, Mr. McFarland?
I was unaware the PPO took place, so I'm in front of this court, so I'm sure the court will take judicial notice on that. So I have nothing further.
Anyone else have any other questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat.
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks, assuming no witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Witness testimony today, Ms. Underwood?
No, Your Honor.
Comments in closing, Ms. Thomas?
Your Honor, at this time, we are asking the court to continue with the goal of reunification. And I'm still very concerned about Ms. Miller's testimony regarding what allegedly took place or what was, I guess, said to her by someone who works at the agency. And I'm very certain that that did not happen. So just with that, it really calls into question her credibility, I guess, and it makes me concerned about requesting discretion to allow parenting time moving forward for these kids. The trauma assessments indicate that she does struggle in managing the 3 children together. We have ample proof and evidence that these children were not doing well in her care. And we're finally getting them stabilized. As Ms. McKinney said, they're in a good routine. And I know that, suspending parenting time absent significant risk of harm to the children's life, physical health, or mental well-being, we need to offer that. But I think that given where these children were when at the time of removal, where they are now, parenting time would pose a risk of harm, specifically to the oldest child and to all of their emotional and psychological well-being, and potentially their physical well-being, considering what we have in these recommendations about her limited ability to monitor the children. However, I know that because the request is reunification, parenting time is something that we're going to need to consider and try to figure out. And so if this court is inclined to provide the agency the discretion to allow parenting time, that we ask that it include in its order that we may deviate from policy given the recommendations in the trauma assessment. So whether that's a half hour per kiddo individually, for specialized time with mom. But I think there's a lot that needs to be worked through still before subjecting these children to go back to parenting time, frankly. Otherwise, it seems that Ms. Miller is making progress in her case service plan, and we can continue to monitor that to determine whether she's benefiting from that case service plan. And the agency is definitely doing their due diligence in providing active efforts for this family. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Well, Your Honor, this is a quite lengthy report. I've gone over it. I haven't seen any negatives on my client. It appears as though under every area she was critiqued as making forward progress. It seems that the agency is also willing to have a family team meeting to discuss parenting time. It seems as though they expressed an opinion about having the children separated for parenting time, and whether that's going to be all the time or to begin with, what that would look like. Family team meeting would address that. We've had no experts to date that testified to the contrary. Client's take is in counseling for the progress she's making, and I'm sure the court would not have dissolved the PPO knowing where this case stands if there wasn't good reason for that. I was not on that case. I'll just say that for the record. So that's our position. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks, any comments?
I do not.
Ms. Underwood?
Your Honor, I believe we're at a difficult position right at this point because, as Ms. Thomas said, I need to weigh the risk of harm for the children not having parenting time or contact with their parents, but also what is truly in their best interest. And at this point, based on the trauma assessments that I have again reviewed, as well as a testimony from Ms. Miller, I'm concerned that Ms. Miller doesn't fully understand the trauma that she has taken part in when it comes to her children and the point in which they're at today, as well as the progress that they have made since being out of the environment that they were in with her. I think with the oldest child, it would be appropriate for him to participate in counseling, either participate in counseling before revisiting parenting time or have his parenting time be in a therapeutic setting where it's not just with a supervisor, but with a therapist that can help navigate the behaviors that he may display while they occur, but then also be able to help assist with those behaviors after he returns to his caregivers. With the younger two, if parenting time were to be reinstated, I do believe it needs to be structured and supervised, but also allow the discretion of the department to have them be either shorter periods of time or suspended or stopped if issues arise. I would also ask that we give the caregivers the ability to take the children across the state line to Ohio, just to go to the zoo or to places that they go may go regularly. That way these kids can continue to be a part of their day-to-day life and family. And I'm very cautious about parenting time with the oldest right now, as he does have the most behavioral issues and struggles the most after visits. So I would ask again that those be therapeutic in nature, if at all, and the younger two be supervised at a minimum. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one additional comment, Your Honor, just based upon the guardian letter. My client has no objection to the kids going across the state line.
Thank you. All right, the court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's review hearing as it relates to Kirsten Miller. The review always encompasses a look at parenting time, especially in a situation like this one where the parenting time has been suspended. I do have some guidance from our CTAC investigation for the three children. I also am guided by the observations offered by the placement and the supervisors that have been part of parenting time for Ms. Kirsten Miller. I would note that today's review hearing also consists of a pregnancy planning hearing for mom. At this early outset, it seems to be the consensus that reunification should continue to be the goal. I would note that the children have been removed since November 21st, 2024. And since the removal, Ms. Miller has not made progress in the areas of housing, employment, or education in a way that would allow her to testify today that she understands that her behaviors and choices as a parent when the children were with her full-time significantly affected them. What we heard from her testimony today under cross-examination from our guardian ad litem is that the child who has exhibited the most challenges and been marked as a result of the longest amount of time that he spent with both of these parents clearly continues to struggle. He's been found to have significant issues with his physical health, his dental health. I think I read something like 10 to 12 teeth are going to have to be pulled from this child because of the neglect around his physical and medical health, his dental health. He's got significant delays in a lot of areas, including educational, and she confirmed today that her perspective remains that he was getting just as much education in her care as he is now, and was not having any behavioral incidents, which is frankly not credible. There were some other pieces of her testimony also that were very contradictory, namely her remarks, summary remarks that she didn't wish to have any continued connection with Mr. Dustin King, the father of the 3 children, but as recently as her psychological evaluation, she did, in fact, downplay, deny any instances of domestic violence in the relationship, and really, frankly, spoke to the evaluator as though she planned on attempting to reunify with Mr. King in the future, if the court would allow that. So I have significant concerns that whatever the counseling is doing and whatever the education is doing through the online educational pieces that she seems to be attempting to do has not made a dent, frankly, in the significant concerns that were in place at the time that these 3 children were removed from her care. It's 38-degree weather, as everyone may recall. They were in significant need of physical attention to their physical needs. I don't need to revisit all of those issues. Suffice it to say that I do not have any indication that Ms. Miller has made progress on her goals in the last 3 months. Certainly not to the extent that I could see that there's been any benefit to that progress. So I'm leaving the goal of reunification today, but I'm going to say it's going to take some significant movement and motivation in the next 3 months in order to continue in the path of reunification. The perspective of this court is that these 3 young children bear the marks of the trauma that they suffered while in her care. The oldest bearing the most marks and the most damage between him and his bond, as was remarked on by the CTAC evaluator. He is still the one with the most significant behavioral issues associated with visitation. We're still unclear on his diagnoses. He was thought reportedly had autism at one point, but we don't know if that's the case. It could very well be that there was just significant trauma, and he is making leaps and bounds in his structure and consistency that's being offered by the placement at this time. The second child also is stabilizing and learning and catching up on some of the delays that he has and some of the behaviors that he's exhibited that mimicked the dynamics of domestic violence. Very prominent marks left on both the oldest and the middle child of the dynamics in the relationship between Ms. Kirsten Miller and Dustin King, reenacting very serious incidents of domestic violence and adult ways of dealing with conflict, like cussing and swearing at people. And these children the 2 oldest especially continue to exhibit, although on a decreasing level, many of the marks left on them. And they're going to need to continue to learn in a structure and an environment supported by interventions from counselors and occupational therapists, physical therapists, and speech therapists. And much of that is going into place for them now. And that is credit due to the referrals made by the foster care agency, as well as Ms. McKinney, who's obviously dedicated a significant portion of her life in order to trying to stabilize an environment for these 3 children to stop what was happening with them which was rapidly spearheading all 3 children towards significant physical, mental, emotional, and psychiatric trauma. The youngest child also reflects that her CTEC reflects that she has her own struggles. She needs to, as it was phrased by the assessor, she needs occupational therapy services in order to assist in development of adaptive skills, to increase visual motor integration skills, develop fine motor coordination and dexterity with her upper. That's a very basic skill set. It goes on to say, a child of Nevada's age should begin to demonstrate a consistent digital pronated grasp with writing and coloring utensils, as well as begin to on and off clothing consistent, take on and off clothing. Additionally, it's imperative that she achieve age-appropriate fine motor, visual motor, and bilateral coordination skills, such as copying, pre-writing strokes and shapes, stacking several small blocks, and completing large chunk puzzles in order to achieve higher order self-care, socialization, learning, and play skills. So all 3 of these children very clearly display gaps in their learning that were clearly directly as a result of the neglect and dangers that were present when in the care of Ms. Kirsten Miller directly. As it relates to the parenting time, I think the guidance that's offered as it relates to the oldest child is remarkable. Specifically, the danger in allowing this child, and any child really, to continue to exhibit negative behaviors associated with parenting time has been phrased rather nicely by the experts employed by the Trauma Assessment Center here at Adrian. Negative behaviors, this is page 20 of the oldest child CTEC. Negative behaviors could lead to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and further mental instability. Al may need to work with his individual therapist before his visits move forward with his mother and or father. We've seen that take place, both with this child as well as the other 2 children after visits with both parents. I'm not inclined to allow the parenting time to continue at this juncture. I think the children are still in a stabilization time frame, and I have no interest in allowing the negative behaviors associated with visits to compromise that progress, to compromise their placement, compromise their education or development any further. I will ask that the children be referred to, if they haven't already, therapeutic parenting time. And for that therapeutic parenting time, individual, professional, to be given the CTEC assessments, to be given the parenting time recommendations and all of the materials from the case in order to effectively develop a plan to allow therapeutic visitation for Ms. Miller after that person has determined that that's appropriate and would not present any further risk of triggering significant behavioral issues that have already indicated harm associated with parenting time with this parent. So parenting time will be suspended until a therapeutic supervisor is secured, who's had time to evaluate all of the materials and make a recommendation on that point. If there's a recommendation made, I would ask the department to bring that to the court's attention, to the attorney's attention immediately, perhaps having a meeting about that, and then bring it to me. But I'm not going to institute parenting time for any of these children until that's in place, for many of the reasons that were already expressed. And I'll say one other thing really impacted this as well, which is the oldest child's experience in being pinched by his mother during parenting time. The assessor noted that he recounted that this had happened several times. She found his account to be quite credible. Considering the testimony that I've had today, it doesn't surprise me that Ms. Miller is denying this occurred, but I also want to say that I think that there were some physical indications that this incident occurred, and that that child's credibility needs to be taken into account. The fact that we have a parent that's willing to take such an action during a supervised parenting time is very significant to this court. It's significant also because there's not just one child here, but 3 children who could be subjected to the same parenting, we'll call it parenting technique. Secondarily, there was observations by supervisors from the department, the agency, as well as the CTAC assessor, indicating that the rapid fire questioning by Ms. Miller was a concern, and the decisions that she made about what to speak to during parenting time also indicated that further skill building needs to happen by Ms. Miller before parenting time could be considered safe. So not only do we have the potential triggering of the behavioral aspect as it relates to the first and second child, but we also have some of these other concerns that need to be overcome by Ms. Miller before parenting time can be considered safe by this court. So now that I have all of that on the record, we're going to look at our next review. The 3 children are in the safest and least restricted environment. They will continue to be there as Ms. Miller works on her skill building and the barriers that have been identified by this court, as well as in the testimony of Ms. Madrid today. We'll set a review in June. Let's go ahead and set that for 10:30 in the morning on Monday, June 2nd. There'll be again a permanency planning hearing as well as a review.
Will that include my client?
It will not. I'm going to continue to maintain the reviews separately for the parents.
What's the time again? Sorry.
Appears appropriate to do otherwise. 10:30 in the morning, Mr. McFarland, on
Thank you.
June 2nd. And again, if you've been able to secure that supervisor with therapeutic skill sets and that is in motion, please don't wait all 3 months to get a recommendation. Thank you. Unless there's any questions, that's all for today.
My client wait in the hall for a copy of the report.
Yes, it should be ready momentarily.
Let's get the facts straight. She loves a verbal ashtray. Never blowing smoke when she gets pissed. She's quick to castrate. Love her on a good day, love her on a bad day. Either way, she's here to stay, stay, stay.